I came to St. Louis in 1983. My wife and I became good friends of the late Judge Rick Titleman, and he solicited us, and we were both very happy to be involved. I think it's extremely important that people not only offer their person and their abilities to help provide legal services with the organized staff and being trained to do so, but they need funding. And funding is absolutely essential because frequently the legislature, or rather Congress, is concerned about the appropriation that they make to assist legal services. So it's got to come from the lawyers. I mean, it's the lawyer's job to provide legal services for people. I mean, nobody else can. So several of us agreed to go to visit various law firms in an attempt to persuade those firms and their members to use not only themselves, but their funds for donations to help legal services. In order for a young lawyer to obtain trial work, the easiest thing to do is to offer his or her pro bono services to assist somebody, especially in the trial area. It's the way they can become accustomed to have an opportunity to try a lawsuit. And it's just a perfect thing for a young lawyer to get into legal services on a pro bono basis, because they can try the case and it'll be an experience for them. And it's good for themselves, good for their firm that they work with, and good for the community. Dan Glazier and I and a number of other persons have been engaged over the years to visit with law firms and individual lawyers in an effort to acquaint them with what legal services is doing. And it has been a real joy. And so many lawyers, you would be astonished to know that people aren't providing these services, lawyers, when they should be. So you use all of your wiles in talking with other lawyers about the opportunity that they have and the need that they have to perform these services. It's refreshing.
Marygrove exists to help abused and neglect children. Marygrove will serve more than 240 individuals a year within our communities. I work primarily as a case manager in the jury, which is a transitional living department. We help those that are homeless or those that are needing places to live develop independent living skills. When a resident comes to Marygrove, they're lacking the stability, the structure, shelter, food, all of that. Marygrove will provide clothing, make sure that all of their needs are met. We get them enrolled in school. They get to utilize the psychiatric services. They have rec therapy. They have individual and group therapy. We, at the TOP and IOP, assist them with jobs and making sure that they're able to maintain those jobs as well. That's where I came into contact with legal services, is through them. We collaborate. They come out and they do presentations for our youth, teach them about legal issues. Sometimes they do one-on-ones with them, depending on the need. They've helped us with disability applications, Medicaid applications. They've helped our youth with IEPs, individualized education plans. They've helped them with transportation to schools. I've had one here recently. When he came to us, he had to be out of his parents' home when he turned 18. He had nowhere else to go. He was originally at a school that was not in our district. He could not get transportation set up. He only had until maybe 2 months until graduation, and he would be done. The school district was refusing to pay for his transportation to and from. Legal services was contacted. They got right on it. He was able to set up transportation within the next week and able to finish and graduate.
BDO USA is an international accounting firm.
My wife connected us with Tracy James, who heads the community economic development initiative with legal services. And through that, we got involved with the nonprofit legal clinic that's held at the last Tuesday of every month. From that, we've been able to develop a number of presentations that focus on nonprofit tax and accounting, and we're currently working on one with that focuses on accounting fundamentals. And then we also have a role on the audit committee for the organization.
Steve and I are very proud of BDO's commitment to the nonprofit community and for the flexibility that they give us to be able to give back.
Where BDO's expertise has really come in handy for legal services, especially in the nonprofit legal clinic, is around organizations' exempt status. Organizations, by and large, don't necessarily consider the accounting side of their tax exempt status when they're starting their organization.
And one of the things that BDO has been emphasizing in recent years is having sort of a heart for your mission, but a brain for business. Because organizations, if they aren't sustainable, cannot continue to serve the population or the community that they're serving if they go out of business. So we've been trying to help organizations become a little more business-like in their approach.
We've been working with the nonprofit legal clinic now for about 2 years.
One of the things that we added on this year were presentations on how to establish a nonprofit, how to maintain your nonprofit, and then what are some of the issues faced by mature nonprofits.
And how we've been able to build off of that is now we're working on a program that focuses on accounting fundamentals, almost like an accounting boot camp, to really get down into the nuts and bolts of accounting in a workable way. I think when you're a CPA as a professional, you do have some responsibility to give back to the community. So to the extent that we're able to use our knowledge and insight to bring some good to organizations that we might not work with in a client capacity, and to be able to spread that knowledge, it's incredibly gratifying to see the light bulbs turn on for a lot of people.
Home Sweet Home is a nonprofit furniture bank. We provide families in St. Louis City and County with furniture and household items. 100% of the clients that come to us are making under $16,000 a year, and the majority of those families that are referred to us are making under $12,000 a year. We currently work with 15 area organizations, in which Legal Services of Eastern Missouri is one of. If you don't have a lot of resources and you are kicked out or removed from your apartment for a variety of reasons, Legal Services of Eastern Missouri is able to help that family get back into a place. But that's just the first step. When they get here, we try to give them as much love and care as we possibly can. So from the second they walk in the door, we're offering them a cup of coffee and just trying to make the process as comfortable as possible. It's not just furniture, it's all the household items too. All the little pieces that you may not think about people needing. It's really easy to go to a food pantry and get food, but if you get that can of food home and you don't have a can opener to open it with, it's not going to be very helpful. If you don't have a pot or a pan to cook it in, it's not going to do much for you. And so to be able to give that dignity back to these families is really, really important to us at Home Sweet Home. And so those little pieces have been really instrumental in giving the clients the dignity and the resources and the stability that they need to kind of help pull their lives back together. But we are really just a piece of that work. And that's why we've partnered with organizations like Legal Services, because the organization that's making the referral is able to help them piece together the rest of their lives. We just get to provide this one important part of it.
I started teaching at SLU about 10 years ago and started a clinic that's called the Entrepreneurship and Community Development Clinic. Vacancy is an issue that really cannot be addressed by any single sector. It really requires the collaboration of public and private, of nonprofit, of community leaders, of local government. All of these stakeholders have to be able to come together in a coordinated way. A lot of neighborhoods really were unaware that they had any power to do anything about the problems with vacant property that they see in their neighborhoods and that they've been living with for years. So one of the things that I've really seen is a renewed sense of hope and empowerment, really. Neighborhoods understanding that, okay, we do have these tools. I currently serve on what's called the Vacancy Advisory Committee, and then I continue to do the work for individual neighborhood associations and community groups within the clinic with my students. The vacancy work, perfectly aligns with the Jesuit mission of our university and of our law school in particular. In addition, I really see the work that we do as essentially being part of the restoration of broken things. And it's really my privilege to be able to work with students to think about why. The problem of vacancy has been a multi-decade problem in the making. It's not going to be fixed quickly or easily or without a lot of time and money and commitment. So I think that the Vacancy Collaborative has a lot of work ahead of it. When we think about the reuse of vacant property, we often think of vacancy as a problem, and it is, but it's also an opportunity. There's lots of opportunities that come with vacancy, and I think that affordable housing is a really important one for us as a city to be thinking about and to seize that opportunity that we have now.
The Crisis Nursery helps children birth through age 12, and that ends up being over 6,000 kids a year in the metropolitan area. And of course, then their parents are cared for in the aftercare program called Family Empowerment. Some of the reasons that kids come to us is that their family's been evicted and they're homeless, they have nowhere to go. Sometimes it's a young single parent mother who's trying to make it on her own and she's just completely stressed out. We wrap our arms around each and every parent and each and every family, and we help them in whatever way that we can. We have actually 10 nurse outreach centers all around the community here. So we're very close to where our families are. So the mission of the St. Louis Crisis Nursery is child abuse prevention. And every day, we literally are saving babies' lives. About a year ago, when a co-funder, the Mental Health Board, knew that we were expanding our space in North St. Louis City, and when we asked the families that we work with and the parents on our Parent Advisory Board what would be most helpful to them, and resoundingly, the help that we were asked for was legal services, that our families feel like they have no voice and no one to advocate for them in that arena. So within the first month, we had families lining up, wanting that help. And the number one issue that our families need help with is landlord-tenant issues. Many of them are in danger of being evicted or have already received that eviction notice. But what we have seen in this past year since we've been working with legal services is the minute that an attorney gets involved and reaches out to that landlord, everything changes and it's all for the better. And the landlord immediately starts taking that family seriously. They start treating them fair. The eviction will stop. And it's life-changing. And in many ways, it's life-saving. To know that there are children in our community today that aren't sleeping on the streets, that aren't trying to make a home out of a car because of legal services means the world to me. I truly appreciate our partnership, and it really makes a difference.
I'm the Executive Director for Community Opportunities, and we provide supports and services to people with developmental disabilities in Lincoln County. I also chair the Domestic Violence Board in Lincoln County, and in addition to that, I facilitate the Domestic Violence Advisory Committee looking at starting a domestic violence court in our community. So we've been through lots and lots of transitions, but always with the single focus of reducing the incidence of domestic violence in our community. But in the work that I've done with domestic violence, that's how I encountered Legal Services of Eastern Missouri. And they've always been a partner at the table with us, which is critical because if you don't have those legal services for the survivors of domestic violence, then they are stuck in their situation. The role that I play is bringing all those community partners together so that we can look at what holes we have in our system, where we need some improvement, or like I said, we're trying to create a domestic violence court. We don't have one right now in our small community. So that's something that we're all working towards. We've been successful working with probation and parole, and now they have a dedicated caseload for folks who have been convicted of domestic violence. And so that's helped a lot with holding those perpetrators accountable. We have these meetings where we bring everyone together to work on what problems we have in our community and how we can reduce the incidence of domestic violence. And so Legal Services has always been a player at the table and have always lent their expertise to the group. Unfortunately, I've witnessed some domestic violence, and so that's always touched me, that it's important that people feel safe in their own homes and that we feel safe in our communities. And I think that's my biggest motivator, is making sure that we all have a safe place to live.
At Citigroup, I'm a general counsel attorney for mortgage originations. I became involved with Legal Services of Eastern Missouri when I joined the legal team. Under the domestic violence program, city attorneys would join our pro bono law firm, which is Bryan Cave Light and Paisner, and sit for docket call once a month. And we identified last year a clinic opportunity that we hosted. And then from there, we also more recently expanded under the Vacancy Initiative program. What motivates me in giving back to the community, really, I feel like some of us are just born with a pro bono heart and a passion for doing volunteerism and pro bono work. I'm not only one of those people, but I'm blessed with working for an organization that has a company philosophy, company-wide, for taking our time and using it towards volunteerism. In addition to that, in our legal department, because we have special skills as attorneys, our leaders within the legal organization not only embrace that philosophy, but very much encourage it and celebrate it. My attorney leaders here right at St. Louis are heavily engaged in everything we do and are great mentors for me in doing pro bono work as well as for the team. What I found was when I became an ambassador for pro bono work and I took my own time in helping to set up the framework, that's all that needed to be done. My legal team, they all joined in. You'd be amazed the attorneys that are willing to give up their Saturday to provide help in that way. So I think the relationship will continue for the long term. At least I hope it does. I really, truly think it will. The benefits are a huge sense of self-worth and accomplishment, servitude, the feeling that you get from not just helping others that need the help so desperately, but in some situations, I've even had the opportunity of lifting someone out of a very desperate and very sad situation, lifting them up and lifting them out. And the feeling that comes with that is just indescribable.
I started at Thompson Coburn. At the time, we had a lot of work to do, but there were a bunch of volunteer cases coming in. And I wanted to be able to get in a courtroom, have client interaction, and help out people. And so this was a great way for me to be able to do that. And so I started taking as many cases as I could right as soon as I started. And Thompson Coburn was very supportive of me taking these cases. As a young attorney, I don't think there was anything more beneficial for me than working on these volunteer cases. They really allowed me to run with the cases, get into court, have client interaction, and the best part is you're helping people out. By and large, in fact, I think all of the cases I've handled have been rent and possession cases or unlawful detainer cases. Dealing with these people and being able to meet with them, talk with them on the phone, know that the issues that they're bringing in front of you are likely the most important issues that they have at the time. They're getting, somebody's trying to move them out of their home. And so you know that it's incredibly important to them, and you could tell when you're talking to them that this is incredibly important to them, and it matters a great deal that you're able to help them out and represent them, because otherwise they feel almost helpless. They don't know what to do when they get into a court, and they don't know, how to handle these types of eviction actions. And so the people that I've worked with, and the clients that I've had and been able to help out on these cases have always been incredibly grateful, incredibly helpful on the cases. And a lot of them, we've developed great personal relationships as well. So it feels really good to be able to give back to them and give back to the community and stand up to some of these landlords who might not have the best practices. So it's just really good to be able to go in there, kind of fight back against the system that they have here. I mean, it's just massive. They're getting evicted at an incredible rate, and there's so many of these cases. And I know that we can't handle them all, and we have our own job to do. But to the extent we can make a difference in one or two of those tenants' lives, I think it's a great feeling. With my law degree, I feel like you have a certain responsibility to give back in the capacity of an attorney, and I could do that through volunteer legal services.
Washington University's Office of the Vice Chancellor and General Counsel is 14 lawyers, and we wanted to get more involved in pro bono opportunities. And through my involvement with the Association of Corporate Counsel, who has a good partnership with legal services, we realized there were opportunities to volunteer with the Community Economic Development Clinic. And so we got involved regularly, staffing the monthly screening meetings with those clients. We've been working with legal services for, I think, about 5 years now. And it's been a great partnership. We've worked with several different departments at legal services and found lots of ways to get involved and contribute. And I think for us, Washington University, part of its mission is to enhance the lives of people in and around the St. Louis area. And so our partnership with legal services has really provided a way for the legal department, but it's allowed us to actually get out on the front lines and help people. So in-house legal departments, it can be a challenge to get a pro bono program going. And I'm proud that we are an example that you can get things going, you can get momentum, you can build your program along the way.
And so while we were staffing the clinics, we were looking for kind of a good fit. We identified this young woman who was actually already working with Washington University on her business plan. And it was quite far along, and really all she needed was the legal assistance to get the company formed and some advice on contracts and insurance. And so we felt that was a good first time, so to speak, to really engage someone on a more individual, personal basis. We worked with her for several months. Then basically she was able to move out on her own. She got her board established, bylaws, she got her tax exempt status for the corporation. And so as far as we know, she's doing very well.
I'll just underscore that Washington University has several missions, but a lot of it is around enhancing the St. Louis community. And we're part of that effort and that mission. And so part of how we support that mission is to provide legal advice to the university. But we also have the power and the privilege to be able to provide direct legal services to individuals and small businesses who need that assistance. And we're more than happy to do that.
In 2014, I decided to sponsor legislation dealing with nuisance property that basically went after absentee landlords, as we call them. And basically, you had a lot of vacant and abandoned buildings that was owned by individuals that they were not keeping their properties up. And it's really a cancer for crime. And I believe that the only chemotherapy was to be able to file legislation that go after absentee landlords.
We have a similar problem in Kansas City, with vacant and dilapidated properties that are not kept, that are nuisance properties. I believe in Kansas City proper, we have over 16,000 vacant and dilapidated properties, and nearly 65% of them are owned by out-of-town banks, other lending institutions, out-of-town property owners. And so we have a real challenge in Kansas City as well for nuisance properties. It's very difficult many times for neighboring organizations to be able to get an injunction to have the courts tell the property owners to clean up those dilapidated properties. without showing actual financial monetary damages in the process. So this legislation allows those organizations and those neighbors to be able to go to the courts to demand that those folks clean up their properties without showing damages. They weren't seeking monetary damages, they're just wanting the folks to clean up their property.
This year, we were able to put in attorney fees.
We were.
And, that was a big step for the legislation that we've been pushing since 2014.
And there's another provision that Senator Nasheed had allowed to go on there, and it's something we've been trying to get done for several years. It's the Good Neighbor Bill. It gave the opportunity for those folks to be able to at least cut grass. We have those in Kansas City, and I'm sure here in St. Louis in the spring and summer that have waist-high weeds. And the folks are just wanting to clean up the properties or pick up trash. And so they can now do that, of course, without threat of liability.
Just a few months ago, the legislation was actually used in the courts, okay? And it was victorious because there was a nuisance property and individuals had a problem with it. They took it to court, and guess what? The court ruled in favor of those individuals that were suing the nuisance property under the legislation that we filed in 2014. So it's working. We now, more than ever before, we just have to get it out, letting people know that this tool is here available for you to use to protect your neighborhood, to make sure that your property value is not going down.
Right.
Because
that's a huge thing.
Because again, it's not just about people's property value. It's about being able to live in a neighborhood that's safe,
right,
where individuals can work, live, and play.